This is Sherm Radio in partnership with Timber Media, Podcasters for India Inc.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Sherm Radio. My name is Rakesh Sharma. Last time I spoke to you, we spoke about a few management lessons from the Bhagavad Gita. Written thousands of years ago, some of the lessons expounded in there continue to be relevant to all of us, not only in running our lives, but also a lot of organizations. Another text in the Indian canon that gets the same kind of treatment is what we're going to be discussing today. Vishnugupta, Kautilya, Chanakya, they're all the same. Or are they? So let's talk about who Chanakya was, first of all, and some lessons from his works that are relevant to us today and always. All of that coming up, the lessons of management as we learn from the Arthashastra by Chanakya. Welcome to Sherm Radio. My name is Rakesh Sharma, and it's time for Chanakya.
You are listening to Sherm Radio in partnership with Timber Media, Podcasters for India Inc.
Let's start things off by understanding who Chanakya was. Was it in fact a person? Did this figure exist? And is it all one person or is it a composite idea? There has been a lot of debate around this. No doubt, Chanakya's Arthashastra has been an object of nationalist pride for a long time, but you would be surprised that it was rediscovered only in the early 20th century when R. Shama Shastri, who was the chief librarian of Mysore state, rediscovered this in 1909, the Arthashastra, that is, and published the first printed version of it in Sanskrit. And since then, of course, it has taken on a life of its own. Was Kautilya, the person who has written this text, the first person to ever written anything about economics? Not necessarily. Was he the only person? Not at all. How was this written all in one go? No, it has undergone several revisions. And similar to such claims, there have been many inconsistencies in the historicity of the text itself. Let's put that all to bed first and then go into what this text has to tell us. When someone says Chanakya these days, the first thing you think of is this person must be a tactical genius, somebody who understands human nature intuitively. The idea of Chanakya comes, of course, from this real historical character, somebody who was an advisor to the Mauryan emperor, that is Chandragupta Maurya. Apparently, he was single-handedly responsible for the overthrow of the Nanda king. His strategies helped send Alexander packing back to where he come from, and he had several ideas about how to run a state, how to run one's finances, as well as state finances. Vishnugupta is allegedly to have been his name, or Kautilya, and Chanakya is the title bestowed upon him. Because of its approach to the exercise of power, if you will, Kautilya's Arthashastra has often been compared to The Prince by Machiavelli or The Art of War by Sun Tzu and several other seminal texts. But there have been a lot of questions about the historicity. Romila Thapar, one of the most preeminent historians of the country, has argued that there are in fact so many similarities between Arthashastra and the edicts that already existed in Ashoka's time that it could be part of the culture itself. Several historians, in fact, have agreed that the text was not composed in one go and, in fact, was edited and added and subtracted over the course of several centuries during the Gupta Empire. Kautilya's original text was probably a tiny little volume, and it only dealt with the art of punishment, is what some historians go on to say. There are no historical records, as the Quint goes on to tell us, of the existence of a real Chanakya, but whatever we know comes from texts and traditions. One of the earliest texts in which we find mention of Chanakya is Mudra Rakshasa, which was a play in Sanskrit that was written about 700 to 1000 years after Chandragupta. There are some other sources like Mahavamsha, which was written in the 5th century, Katha Saritsagra, a text of the 11th century, from which we have a lot of stories that are still eagerly consumed. There is also Parishishta Parvan, which was written in the 12th century. All of these make references to Chanakya, but again, several hundreds of years after this person existed. But that is not the point of this podcast. The point of this podcast is to understand if there are any relevant lessons from this text for our times, and no matter the provenance of the text or the historicity of it, there certainly are some lessons, some success mantras that you can adopt to make a part of your personality or your working style that can be culled from the Arthashastra. I just wanted to give you some quick background for the sake of being comprehensive. Before I get into Chanakya Niti, as it were, I must acknowledge the work of Professor Radhakrishnan Pillai, who has I must acknowledge the work of Professor Radhakrishnan Pillai, who has written numerous books on Chanakya, Professor Kangle, and several others who have written contemporary treatises discussing the work of Chanakya have proven to be great source material to put this particular podcast together. With that said, let's get into some of the lessons that are relevant to us from Kautilya's Arthashastra.
You are listening to Sharm Radio in partnership with Timber Media, podcasters for India Inc.
As Professor Pillai says, Anvikshiki Prayoga, that is the use of strategic thinking, is one of the most important lessons we can learn from the Arthashastra. What is Anvikshiki? It's the method of strategic thinking. It's the first quality one has to develop for success. Anvikshiki literally means the ability to inquire, observe, analyze, and think properly. Apparently, Chanakya taught his students how to use strategic thinking in every possible situation that they encountered. Whether it is a good situation or a bad situation, when a situation presents itself before you, how must you go about it logically in order to achieve the most optimal outcome that you want? This is clearly something that he conveyed to kings as well, Chandragupta Maurya to be specific, and this is something that applies to us as well. We encounter so many situations in daily life, especially in business, that require some, as leaders and managers, to come up with a suitable outcome. How to go about it first? Start by strategy.
You are listening to Sharm Radio in partnership with Timber Media, podcasters for India Inc.
The next piece of advice that Chanakya gives us is Vriddha Sanyoga. Vriddha Sanyoga is literally seeking advice from the elders, and in this case, seeking advice from experts. We all have our own pace of doing things, and in our quest to be first to get past the post, we might end up ignoring what is really useful and sage advice from people who have been there, done that. Rushing things to do on our own is a recipe for disaster. It is always preferred to at least take the perspective of some people who have already undergone these situations and come up successful in these situations prior. Vriddha, of course, means elders or experienced people. These wise men and women can be your guide, your mentors, your coaches. If you heed advice from these experts, it is possible that you will avoid the pitfalls that come up. They will be like a protection shield when you're fighting and a lamp that will lead you in cases of darkness. So, always seek advice from experts. Do not let your ego get the better of you when you're trying to go ahead, not only in your life, but also in your career. The third lesson that we'll talk about today is Amatya Utpatti, which is creating a team. And we are leaders, we are managers, we are maybe managing a team of 2 and managing a team of 200,000. Nothing can succeed without teamwork. Teamwork is the bedrock upon which any kind of organizational success is built. Of course, you can start as one person and can still succeed. You can be one of those Ekasanthi Grahi types who can manage everything on your own, but that is not quite true of people in general. For us to succeed, for an idea to take shape and take flight, it needs the help of a team. Chanakya says for a leader, he has to focus on creating a team. For a king, these are his ministers, mantris, who are also called amatyas. Utpatti, of course, means creation, a creation of people that surround you and give you good advice. Creating a group of good ministers or creating a group of good co-workers is an important activity that the king had to do back then, and now leaders have to do in order to succeed. So if you want to succeed, never fight a battle alone, because you're bound to come up short. Create a team that you can trust. Create a team that'll take you along.
You are listening to Sharm Radio in partnership with Timber Media, podcasters for India Inc.
The next lesson is Utsaha Vardhaka, meaning inspiring others. This was a lesson that we learned from the Bhagavad Gita as well. Leaders have to take responsibility of what they're putting out into the world, because what they do is going to be emulated by people who follow them, people who are their co-workers and look up to them for inspiration. If you want to succeed, inspire others. That can never happen if you're only looking out for yourself. If you're looking out for the greater good, for the greater betterment of the company, is when people look at you and think, look at that man or woman, and that is exactly who I want to be. It's important that if you have the formula for success, share it with others. We saw this in the case of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg as well, who passed away recently. It was not as though she just broke the glass ceiling in a lot of ways. days and closed it soon after. She held the door open. She opened the door for the next generation and held the door open. She did not shut it after her. And that is important for us to remember as well. If we've created something that is of use to others, we should share it with others. Success brings in more success. It is just one of those things that if you have more of, it will only keep improving. And that can only happen with this openness of wanting to share what you have come up with, what you have discovered, and how somebody else might also engage in the same rules that you have laid down, and with it, your own success improves as well. But it's only by sharing that you grow. When you inspire others, you also end up inspiring yourself. What is the adage when it comes to learning? If you read for yourself, you learn about 20%. But if you show others what you did, if you teach others how you learned it, your comprehension of a particular aspect is 90%. So it's a bedrock of learning, and that applies to success as well.
You are listening to Sharm Radio in partnership with Timber Media, podcasters for India Inc.
And finally, he speaks about Swadhyaya, which is self-study. Chanakya was a teacher, but he was a brilliant student as well. But students and teachers should never forget to study. It's a quality that one should keep forever. If you want to be a leader, better be a reader. Because why? Readers succeed in life. Arthashastra mentions that one should study every day. Swadhyaya, swa meaning self and adhyaya meaning to study. So one who studies and reads every day develops a habit of good thinking. And we've seen this so many times. If you look at Bill Gates, for example, who has his own annual list of books to come up that he comes up with, and is a huge proponent of reading, as is Warren Buffett. The two of them have a book club almost going on. The fact of the matter is, it's not the letters that you're consuming. It is just that the more you read, the more expansive your worldview becomes, and the more innovative ideas that you will get in order to not only run your business but also to manage relationships with people. Some people would even go so far as to say fiction teaches you more than non-fiction could ever. So this is coming from the horse's mouth. In this case, Chanakya himself said, in order to be a good leader, better be a great reader. And that is something that we must incorporate. Upskilling is part of this. Being a comprehensive, holistic leader who not only understands the technical problems within the company, but also emotional problems within a company are what make for a great leader. You may have read there isn't the concept of a T-shaped leader with one specialization are gone. You have to be an M-shaped leader with an interest not only in how the company is run, but people that work with you, what makes them tick, what makes them want to stay together, how you can be that emotional glue that binds everyone together and binds them all in the purpose of serving the company is what makes a great leader. So all of this can come with reading. I know it sounds simplistic, but this is a piece of advice that has been given to people for millennia, and we would do well to follow it. There you have it, a few lessons from the Arthashastra by Kautilya that continue to be relevant even today. Some of them might seem like common sense nuggets to you, but it is important to reinforce the memory of some of those important lessons, because so many times our ego gets in the way of us actually achieving the true potential that we have. Should I talk to this person? Should I not collaborate with that person? What will he think of my ideas? You know, all of these obstacles that we place in our way can in fact reduce the chances of us achieving our true potential. Let us understand that there are some timeless lessons that if we try and follow, we can still be the version of success that we've always envisaged for ourselves. Until the next time, this is me, Rakesh Sharma, saying thank you for joining us, and our thanks yet again to Chanakya.
This is Sharm Radio in partnership with Timber Media, podcasters for India Inc.